listen, and all you desire will be yours. Welcome to Spider-Dan and the Secret Wars. Prepare for battle.
Welcome to Prattle World. I am your host, the ever-amazing, ever-spectacular Spider-Dan. And in this podcast, I spotlight entertainment's best-kept secrets that a mainstream audience may find boring. And welcome to Secret Ball Stories, where I invite guests to count down a personal top 5 list in a high-fidelity fashion. And have we got a galaxy-busting episode for you today? It has been far too long for me to reach out to this galaxy far, far away, to get back in touch with Scott Hodgson to talk some top 5 Star Wars video games. This is Scott's idea. This is Scott's podcast. So why did you pick this topic, Scott?
Well, other than obviously the films, computer games were where I got my sort of Star Wars. I guess it's sort of all we had in the 90s was pretty much Star Wars games. There were obviously, the books and other things as well, but from Return of the Jedi until Episode 1, there was just nothing really going on except, for me, video games. And that's where my love of Star Wars continued. And yeah, like I did read a few of the books, but aside from another Star Wars film at the time, it was, what's the next Star Wars video game going to be? And what's the story going to be like? So let's do the top 5 video games based on Star Wars.
Yes.
Why not?
And it's a great idea because I think there are some absolute corkers. Like I think it's very hard to find a very, very bad Star Wars video game, I think, out of the
there are
many.
A few out there.
Yeah, but I think they're very few and far between. I may have included some on my list. Who knows?
For a TV license, the Star Wars games do tend to be pretty good.
Yeah, they're pretty consistent. I don't know how you feel about EA recently lost the license. Is this a good news thing or a bad news thing for you?
Very good news, I think. Very good news. I'm quite puzzled why they decided to do that deal in the first place and just limit all Star Wars games to one company. And especially what happened with, I think EA are a very controversial company in terms of loot boxes and things like that. And then they only brought out 2, maybe 3 games in the first 4 years, something like that. Very, very happy that it's come to an end because EA will still make Star Wars games, I think, in the future anyway. So if you did like them,
they're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. They're a popular game company, whether you like them or not. It's going to stick around. But it's good to see different people have a chance to make and do their version of it. What a Star Wars video game should be.
I'd like to see some smaller ones, some smaller Star Wars games, not just big blockbustery ones like Battlefront and Fallen Order. But I'd love to see like a Telltale Walking Dead type game.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Just in Star Wars, that would be brilliant.
We talked about that last time, didn't we? That was on our list last time. Do you want to get started with your first pick?
Yes, let's. So this is probably the one I've got the most to say about, I think. Is Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight. It's probably the first Star Wars game on the PC. I think it came out in 97 and I played the hell out of it. It was my favorite game at that point, I think. And it follows the story of Kyle Katarn. So this is where he came from. And I think in the expanded universe, he's one of the best characters, I think. In the first Dark Forces game, which I didn't play until after I played Jedi Knight, he's actually the character that steals the Death Star plans and gets them to Princess Leia. So that he was the guy, and that's what you actually do in the first Dark Forces game.
Oh, that's what a great idea for a video game. That's excellent plot there.
Recently, I think with The Mandalorian, they've actually taken a lot from Dark Forces and the Jedi Knight series. And I don't think you've not seen The Mandalorian yet.
No, I've not. But I'm getting to it. I'm going to finish off Clone Wars and Rebels first. That's my step.
Yeah.
And that, because I think it might be a richer viewing experience for knowing all the other associated characters, basically.
But yeah, there's a few plot points in that are taken from Dark Forces. There's these Dark Troopers, which are the enemies in Dark Forces, and they're basically mechanical stormtroopers. And they actually show up in the second series. I don't think that's much of a spoiler.
No.
But
I've heard bigger spoilers for The Mandalorian, don't worry.
yeah. But yeah, players Khan. He was originally an Imperial. I'm not sure if he was a trooper or an officer, but then he sort of turned to the side, I guess. And he was more of a mercenary rather than a rebel. And by the time you get to this game, Jedi Knight, he starts to become actually a Jedi. And the first few missions, first person shooter, sort of similar to Doom, I guess, in terms of look. And most of the game, you're just going around from point A to point B, finding keys, going up lifts. There's a lot of lifts in these sorts of games back in the day. Shooting bad guys. And that's the first few episodes are a bit sort of generic, just shooter really. Then I think it's in like the fourth mission, you get your lightsaber, and then you start to force powers and things like that. You're basically chasing down this guy called Jarek, who killed your father. He's the main bad guy, and he's got his group of minions, although they're not called Sith. I remember they're called Dark Jedi back then. I really don't remember the word Sith being used much.
Was it episode 1?
I suppose the prequels where they actually really determined what a Sith was, I think. It possibly in the expanded universe in books and things, but so they were called Dark Jedi basically, and they're sort of as you meet a game, and there's several different ones. There was this really annoying Twi'lek. Is it Twi'lek or Twi'lek?
Twi'lek?
Twi'lek.
I'm sure Andy Knowles will tell us.
He'll know. But yeah, he's one of the bosses, and he was the first Force user, I suppose, who I ever saw use 2 lightsabers. So he had one in each hand, and he was an absolute nutcase. He would jump around the screen, and he kind of reminded me a little bit of Gollum. The thing about this game is it filmed properly, so full FMV, and they actually use actors. And as far as I'm aware, this was the first time that anything Star Wars had been filmed, pretty much, where they had people using lightsabers.
Wow.
So after Return of the Jedi, these actors are the first actors to hold lightsabers, which I always thought was pretty cool.
That is cool. I like when they have live action stuff in video games, like when they kind of they intersperse it a little bit. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But
yeah,
I do appreciate.
I think it's very cheesy, and if I went back and looked at it now, I'm not sure how it would look or how the acting would be. But at the time, that was incredible to see, just actors on the screen playing Star Wars. And this was the first Star Wars video game that I'd played where you could choose to be light or dark.
Ooh.
And it mainly depended on because at the end of each mission, you could choose to upgrade your Force powers. And depending if you chose the light side or the dark side powers, that would change. I don't know if it was much of the story that would change, but the cutscenes would change. It was a brilliant game. The combat was great. The shooting was brilliant. When you're using the lightsaber, it would normally go into third person. So when you turn your lightsaber on, it would, the camera would be behind you, and you could chop stormtroopers off. Oh, that's the first game I remember being able to do that.
Was that the one that we played? Was that Jedi Knight? Was that Jedi?
That was Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast.
Right.
So I think that was the one after this one.
Right. Yeah. Because it definitely didn't have live action. But I do remember
No.
I don't think it's that good a game on its own. But there was a multiplayer mode that we used to play all the time.
That was
we just loved, because it was just like, if there was an online version of that would have been amazing. But at the time there was no kind of such thing as that, so it was basically just us versus all the bots, wasn't it?
That was on the GameCube that I had that. Fun enough, actually, speaking of multiplayer, this was the first Jedi Knight was the first game I ever played online with someone.
Wow.
And it was with my best mate at the time, we had to use dial-up. So I actually, I remember we said, all right, because back then you didn't connect someone, you actually had to phone them using your dial-up, and their phone would ring, and they'd have to answer it on their PC in order to connect. So we had to make sure that we didn't have mobile phones in that time, so I couldn't be like, oh yeah, I'm going to dial into you now. I'd say we arranged it that I would call him at like 5 o'clock specifically. So when his phone rang, he had to connect. He had to select connect at that moment when his phone rang, so that we could actually connect and play online together. That was incredible. Just playing with someone for the first time online, and it was basically a very simple death match kind of thing. But
I mean, that was groundbreaking at the time. Look at it now.
Yeah, and it's just so simple now.
Well, you say it's simple. I still struggle playing Star Wars Battlefront with my internet connection. So so yeah, I'm running into like invisible walls and stuff. It drives me mad. But yeah, no, excellent choice. I think I've definitely played Dark Forces. I'm not sure if I played that version. But I definitely played at least the first one that was like Doom and stuff. I'm not sure if I ever graduated to the lightsaber stuff, but it was fun. I like the character of Kyle Katarn as well. I think he's a cool kind of. He's kind of like he's a bit of a grey Jedi, isn't he? He's kind of somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, and then I just want to quickly mention the expansion pack. I suppose we called the DLC now, but it was called Mysteries of the Sith. I think it was a few years after Jedi Knight, but you start that one off playing as Kyle Katarn, and you're actually training Mara Jade. I'm not sure if you're familiar with.
So Mara Jade in the expanded universe is tried to be the assassin of Luke Skywalker, but then ended up falling in love and getting married to him. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. So again, a very important character in the expanded universe, which of course doesn't exist or is not canon now, I guess.
No.
You start off training her at the beginning, and then you have a few missions as well. And then Carl goes off to because he's found some ancient Jedi temple that he wants to go and investigate. So then you play a few more other missions as Mara Jade, and then you haven't heard from Carl in a bit, so you decide to try and track him down and see what's happening. Having gone to this all-powerful Jedi place, I guess, he's actually turned to the dark side because of power that's there. And you then have to try and turn him back. And it's got probably the greatest ending video game, or the most ingenious way of ending a game that I've ever experienced. Well, basically, you end up just in a lightsaber fight with Kyle. And I remember trying to kill him probably hours and hours on end, because you just sort of think you have to have we've both got lightsabers. He's fighting me. I've got to try and kill him, basically. But you just can't win that fight. And the way to beat the game is you have to basically Obi-Wan Kenobi yourself and turn your lightsaber off so that you force Kyle to kill you, but he can't actually go through with it. He goes swing at your neck and then at the last second stops. And that's how you can only finish the game by basically disarming yourself and not have weapons, then force him to hit you, and then you manage to bring him back from the dark side. Amazing. And I thought that was an absolutely ingenious bit of gameplay and story. So yeah, that holds a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
So for once you to defeat a game, you had to do nothing. I thought that was fantastic.
If only more games were like that, I'd probably complete them. I think if I had to do fuck all, I'd be very good at games. Sadly, I'm not. But no, it sounds like it's a little bit like Metal Gear Solid, where there was like several different ways to beat an enemy, or you could just change the time on the PlayStation. The guy would die and things like that. But what a great choice!
Yeah, very clever.
What a great ending! Yeah, it sounds great. Well, I'm going to go on to my first choice, which, speaking about dial-up and all that, it takes me back, but this one will take you back. I'm going with Star Wars Yoda Stories from 1997 on the Windows 95 desktop. Yeah.
Earlier we said, the bad Star Wars games. This was the one that came to my mind. But
Well, it is not good, I'll be honest. However, back in the day, my family didn't have a lot of money. They didn't have a lot of, we didn't have the most advanced computers. We didn't have the internet. I didn't have a, console or what have you at the time. So this at the time was it. This is all I had. So I played the shit out of this game. And it's basically Legend of Zelda. On your desktop, you get a little window that comes up within the desktop. The games are meant to be played like it's meant to be like a substitute for like solitaire, like very short-term kind of gameplay. And it's basically an RPG. You would get a mission from Yoda. You would go to a planet, either Tatooine, Hoth, Endor, and then you would complete this mission, and there'd be various things you had to do. The combat was not very good. It was very glitchy and all over the show, but I still enjoyed it. You have to get this thing from one guy to give to another guy to unlock that thing to get the key for that door. It's that sort of game. But then there was lightsaber combat. You got blasters. You got thermal detonators. You have to hold and click and drag it over to the stormtrooper to blow them up. So it was a very, very unique gameplay experience. Again, not one of the best Star Wars games at all, but this is, again, big nostalgia for me. I had a lot of fun with this. And again, each time you would play, it would reset and it'd be a totally different mission, totally different way of playing it. It's totally random. The map was totally random. The random object you're given to Yoda to start the mission is, again, random. So you never played the same level
I didn't
twice.
know that. All right.
Yeah, so even if you failed completing one, if you quit it or you die or whatever, you could start up again, and it'd be, again, totally new random situation. You might be on Hoth, but you'll never play the same level twice, is what I'm saying. So it did have that going for it. This was followed by, it followed Indiana Jones and his Desktop Adventures, which was a very similar game. Very bizarre. But yeah, it's not probably the best. It was released on Game Boy Color as well, but that was
where I played it briefly.
No, you don't want to play it there. That was the awful version. You have to play it on the desktop. Right. Windows 95 desktop is the only way. But yeah, it's bizarre, but I quite enjoyed it. Again, I'm a big fan of Legend of Zelda, and it was kind of that sort of gameplay. There's no music as well, which was very disappointing. Apart from like very small moments, it was mostly just sound effects, like whoop, whoop, bling, bling, bing, bing, pew pew pew. Some of the sound effects were Star Wars sound effects. Don't get me wrong, and you'll hear, if you go into the bar in Tatooine, you'll hear. But that's all you'll hear. You won't hear any more of the song. That's it.
Yeah.
I think you could hear quotes, or you can hear Darth Vader's breathing, stuff like that. But it was fine for what it was. It wasn't the greatest, but again, for me, it's all about nostalgia, and that was one of my more nostalgic games. Again, like it's a casual game. It's not like these, like you said, these blockbuster games. It's just a small game, small adventure game for, like, when you're on your break at work, or when you're on your lunch break or something. Just put some time aside. Just have a little go, and if you do it, you do it. If not, it's totally random. You get a new one later anyway. But it is a fun game. As well, it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I, as a kid, going back to it now, it's probably dog shit. It's probably utter dog shit. But I enjoyed it at the time, and I had a blast with it. But anyway, let's move swiftly on from Yoda stories onto yours.
So this was probably the first Star Wars game I ever played. It was Star Wars on the NES.
Oh.
Which was a sort of a side-scrolling platformer, where you may start off. It's basically following A New Hope, the whole story. You start off as Luke on Tatooine, and you basically need to find all the other characters, and you need to find shields for the Millennium Falcon, which somehow are hidden in a cave and things. And you kind of can follow it however you like. I don't think you actually had to collect all the characters. The more you collected, the easier the game was. I think I remember right. You have to find your lightsaber as well. So you only start off as with a gun at the beginning, and you have to find R2 and C-3PO, and Han, and Obi-Wan. So the first few are all side scrolling, pretty standard platform fare, but the gameplay was just really solid, and it was really fun. You sort of at the beginning, you're against sand people and creepy crawlies and things like that, and it's basic to begin with. But then the later episodes, there's some sort of flight simulator levels, where you're controlling the Falcon, and they're sort of really good space combat missions. And one of the missions you have to avoid hitting asteroids coming when you're flying into Alderaan, basically. So there's for an original NES game, there was a lot of variety, and the music in it was incredible. I've actually I want to see if you can hear this, because I've got a YouTube video, and for sort of Star Wars game on the NES to have this music, I absolutely love this music. I think it's brilliant. Let's see if you can hear it. Although I'll just quickly say that I think there were limitations with the Nintendo. So with the music, if you fired your gun at the same time, some of the music would stop. I think because of the processing power, it could only have either the music or you shooting a gun.
Wow.
So it's a little, yeah. You might hear a bit of that here, but yeah, here we go. I just think it's so good. And then you get a bit of the Han Solo theme here. For that style, like that music at the time, but yeah, for that limitation, I just think that sort of synth music was really, really cool, and I just love it.
Sounds good. Now. Sounds really good. I never played Star Wars on the NES. I did have a NES. I did have a few games, but that was not one of them. I think I had James Bond Jr. I think that was one of the games I had. Do you remember that cartoon? There was a cartoon called James Bond Jr.
I remember. I never saw it, I don't think, but I do remember it being about. But yeah, the game's not perfect. There's a really annoying Death Star level where you have to find Leia, and the whole level is you just going in lifts to try and find specific prison cell she's in. And yeah, some of the levels aren't brilliant, but yeah, for this time, I think that's a smashing game.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people out there have very fond memories of that game as well. I wish I did, but I never played it. I think I've seen somebody play it online, I think, somewhere, maybe on a YouTube video or something.
Yeah.
But I don't think I think, can't you go into a cave and Darth Vader's there sometimes? Or you might find him possibly. Not sure.
I'm not sure if there's that might be. I know there's a lot of hidden areas in caves in that game. But yeah, I guess it's sort of similar to Super Star Wars, which was on the SNES. But yeah, I always preferred that because I think Super Star Wars was just a bit too difficult.
Yeah, true. I mean, I think I'm pretty sure I played that with cheats anyway, so it was like I can't die.
Yeah. But yeah, really good game, that one.
Excellent.
Especially the flying sections as well. They were really fun.
Okay, well, that was an excellent choice. I'm going to go on with mine. I'm going to go with a game I've been playing today, in fact, and it's Star Wars Bounty Hunter from 2002 on the PS2 and the GameCube. Now, if you're a fan of The Mandalorian, this is the game for you, because you play as Jango Fett. Not Boba Fett. This is kind of the Boba Fett game everybody always wanted, all the tools and his arsenal. However, you play as Jango. This is a prequel to Attack of the Clones. And the story is you are hired by Darth Tyrannus to find Darth Sidious's previous apprentice called Comrai Vosa. But all the while, this is also a test for Jango to be a candidate for the clone program. So they're testing him to see if he's worthy to make a clone army out of. And along the way, you go to all the various planets. You go to Coruscant. You go all over the galaxy. all the other planets I can't think of off the top of my head. But, I've have a lot of fun with this game. You are zipping around with a jetpack, which is always fun in a game. Like, I don't care who you are, where you're from, shooting, blasting people and whizzing about like that cannot be enjoyable on some deep primordial level. It is just a lot of fun. It's got a lock-on system, luckily, because when you're zipping around in a jetpack, it's probably hard to target and aim. So I'm glad it does have that. But you can also shoot 2 individual targets at the same time as well, which is really...
That was cool. I remember that.
A cool little option. You get all the little gears. You get the flamethrower. You get like a blowtorch, rockets you can shoot. You've got grenades. You've got poison darts. You've also got this scanner where you can scan civilians and some of your enemies to see if there's a bounty on them. And if you do that, you can either take them alive, or you can kill them. Usually alive is obviously worth more, and it's a lot more difficult to do. I like that mechanic, but it doesn't always really work when you're just in the middle of a massive shootout. You can't really just go, hold up, guys. I just need to scan everyone, see if there's any bounties. You can't really do that. It's better on kind of the levels where you're in and amongst the kind of innocent people, and you have time to kind of scan them and see if they're wanted or not. But I think if they remade this game, made it like an open world thing, I think that would be an excellent game. It's proper fun. I like the look. The version I've got, I think, like Django's armor is quite shiny. The graphics are still like this. They're rudimentary, but they still kind of hold up. Again, it's not a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination. Sometimes there's kind of I glitched out earlier when I was playing it. I fell into a window and died. I don't know how that happens, and the camera work is horrific. The camera is horrible, but that's usually a problem with kind of games of that time, of that era. The camera was just like all over the show. When I started playing it today, I was like, "Oh, this is horrible. Oh, I hate this. Oh." just walking into walls. I don't know where I'm going. But it's a fun game. You get Tamura Morrison returns to voice the character as well, which is cool. To go along with all the clones and everything. But yeah, it's a blast. It's fun. It's on the PlayStation Store if anyone wants to play it. It is good. It's only about £7 or £8, I think, and I'd probably say it's worth that. And it's you've got some great voice actors in there like Clancy Brown as well. But yeah, excellent game, a lot of fun. But yeah, I'd like to see a remastered kind of remake in an open world situation, maybe a Mandalorian game, maybe not necessarily.
Yeah, if they ever do a Mandalorian game, it would be very similar to this. I think they wouldn't go far wrong doing that. But yeah, this was close to being in my top 5. I really liked it. I don't think I ever completed it.
Yeah, I'm going to try.
It was really, it was really, really fun. Like you say, the flying mechanics and the bounties, scanning people. I remember doing that and enjoying it. Very good game.
Yeah, you can unlock. It's kind of inspired as well by a comic book, or it kind of follows on the story from a comic book as well. But yeah, it's again, you can unlock like concept art and various other things as well, kind of behind the scenes stuff with the bounties that you do get if you want to bother to do the bounties. But yeah, it's a blast of a game, and I do recommend it. But moving on, what's your next choice, Scott?
So my next one is Episode 1 Racer.
Oh, Pod Racer.
Pod Racer, yeah. So I played this on the PC. I think it was on the N64. I'm not sure if it was on PlayStation. Oh, it was so much fun. When you look at it, it's very simple racing game, sort of F-Zero like, Wipeout like. The pod racing is widely regarded as the best part of Episode 1. I enjoy the prequels, and I think I was at the right age for them. Just having a game solely about the pod racing was just really fun. Looking back at it, I'm not a big fan of racing games, really. It's ones that you can't sort of shoot things. Like Mario Kart is great because it's racing and you're firing crazy weapons. So I'm not normally a fan of racing games where you're just driving or just flying. But this one I really liked, and the sort of main track was the same one that's in the film. on Tatooine, and there's all of the characters you see in that race you can play as. So you can play as Sebulba, you play as Anakin, you play as the other weird ones. I think the one I played with throughout most of it was someone called Team Toe, who was this little guy with sort of a round, like a ring cockpit, but a ring that's sort of on it stood up. But yeah, it was really fun. You had to, so the more you won, the more you could spend on upgrade for your pod. And I think Watto, you bought all your stuff from Watto's shop, and it had the same voice actor playing Watto. Yeah, that really, really fun racing game. And there's sort of some shortcuts in the levels, and there was an arcade version. I don't know if you ever saw it, but it had Anakin's pod racer that you'd actually sit in and being at a bowling alley. And you actually had you had two joysticks, so one for each hand, and you had to push them both forward to go, and then one to turn. So the arcade version of that was brilliant fun, and you had a big boost button.
Yeah, I definitely remember the arcade version. I hear a lot of people kind of rate this game and the arcade version very highly among kind of Star Wars games. And I'm very much like you, Scott. I don't really like games where you don't kind of, when you're racing, you're not shooting or doing anything else. It's very rare that I'll, take the time to play a racing game without that. I like my Twisted Metal. I like my, like you said, Mario Kart. Yeah. Those type of things. Those are my games for racing. Just going round and round a course I find like very boring to me. Yeah. Some people love it, and I remember I went to work at Silverstone one year, and I spent about 5 minutes watching the cars go around. I worked the whole weekend, and that's what I was like, yeah, that's enough. I think I recorded it as well. I went, yeah, that's enough kind of racing. Let me go out and drink some beer and do my job or whatever. Yeah, bizarre. But no, I think a lot of people would agree with you from what I've heard, all the good things I've heard about that game. It sounds like it's a fan favorite.
Very, very fun. They've remastered it. I think it came maybe last year or the year before. The graphics are still sort of basic. I don't think they've improved them, but like the frame rate, I think, is a lot better. So yeah, give it a go.
I think we've timed this quite well, this podcast, because next month they're actually re-releasing a video game, a Star Wars video game called Republic Commando. Did you ever play that one?
Yeah, that was another one that was nearly on my list. I actually bought a collection of five. I think there were maybe 5 Star Wars games on one PC pack. I think it was probably one of the last PC games I've ever bought. But yeah, there was Republic Commando was on there, and I think Battlefront 2 was on it, and another couple of the games. But Republic Commando I never completed. I think I only played a few hours, but yeah, that was very, very good as well.
I think
I've not played that enough, so I'm probably going to get that when it comes out again.
I think I will. I've heard a lot of good things, and someone in our listener comments recommends it as well. So I'm definitely going to give that one a look. I probably need to finish all the other games I own first, which is like 30 games, I'm sure. Anyway, moving on. My next choice from the 90s again. It is Star Wars Shadows of the Empire from the N64.
Well, yeah.
This was Shadows of the Empire was part of a multimedia kind of event. This featured novels, comics, toys, trading cards, posters, soundtracks, and video games. So this was a way to drum up business and interest in Star Wars again. Like you were saying at the start, Scott, in the 90s, there wasn't much kind of Star Wars content. So they were like, we need to keep this kind of franchise alive by doing something. So they told this story, which is kind of set between the end of Empire and the beginning of Jedi. So in that small amount of time, that's when this story takes place. And the comics would tell one part, the novels would tell another, and the video game would tell another as well. And we follow Dash Rendar, who's an old friend.
That's his name, yeah.
Old smuggler friend of Han Solo.
That's a great name.
It's a great name. And again, like Kyle Katarn, I'm quite partial to Dash Rendar as well as a character. He's very much a stand-in for Han Solo while he's all not kryptonite, carbonated up, all frozen and stuff. But I quite like his ship as well. The Outrider is a cool little ship. It's a great design. I like the villains in it. Zizor, I think or Zixor. I think he's kind of this. He's part of the Black Sun criminal empire in Star Wars. I like his design and his character, and he was almost like a kind of apprentice to the Emperor as well. Another one. He was going to kill Vader because he killed his wife. So he was going to replace Vader, kill Vader, and replace him, and go up the food chain. So that's kind of what the story's about. But Dash Rendar specifically is trying to get Han Solo back from the bounty hunter Boba Fett. And you clash with Boba Fett, and again, you got a jetpack because I love a jetpack in a video game. And you fight IG-88 as well, which is one of my favorite kind of the bounty hunters. I always loved the bounty hunters in Star Wars, all the variety and weird and wackiness. So you get to fight him as well. But one of the best moments, and probably a highlight of the game, is probably the opening level where you are in a snow speeder for the very first time, I believe, and you are able to tie up the attacked walkers with a cable and make them fall over, which I thought was like revolutionary. I was like, oh my God, this is 3D. Like, I struggled to do it. It was bloody hard to work it out.
It was tough, yeah.
It was tricky, but when you did it, you were like, oh yes, because you could just shoot them generally, but it would take forever.
Yeah.
But what a moment when you did that. It was amazing. It was like, oh, I'm in the movies. I'm in there. It feels real, And that the level after, you're running through the base and there's loads of Wampers. So, what's not to love? There's even a level where you're on speeder bikes going through Tatooine, Mos Eisley. You're jumping over the Sarlacc pit. You're driving past Jabba's palace and you're smashing everybody into walls to survive this race. And again, it's another kind of race situation where I quite enjoyed it because I was able to kind of, just like if we were about to hit a corner, I could ram them into the corner just as we were going around it and stuff. It's great fun. And I think, like you said earlier, the variety was very good. It wasn't just one style of play. You were doing stuff in space, you were doing stuff in a turret, you were kind of third person adventure with a jetpack. You have all this stuff going on, while also kind of continuing the Star Wars saga and, having this little adventure, which is kind of, unknown. It's it's almost like a lost story or a lost tale, which I quite liked. I never owned this game, but I played it religiously when I went round to my friends who had an N64 and my cousin who had an N64. I was like, we're playing, Shadows of the Empire. That's what we're playing. That's what we're doing right now. And the cutscenes were great. The story was great. All amazing. Highly recommend it. I don't know if you can. I don't know if people have N64s or if you can play them on, or if you can get one of those machines that plays all sorts of N64 games. But I would recommend getting it. Again, it probably doesn't hold up that well nowadays. There's probably quite a few kind of graphic issues and problems with it. But again, for me, it was just fun, and it was nice to have. I like stuff that expands the universe in a good way, the Star Wars universe, like in a realistic way. And I also like when the lead, when it's not about Luke or Leia or Han or Chewie or Yoda or Obi-Wan. I like it when it's about a new character or a different part of the Star Wars universe, because I never really liked that a lot of the films are kind of predicated about like, you're a Jedi. You need to be blood related to someone who's a Jedi. I never liked that idea.
Yeah.
I always liked that it was just like you were just not midichlorians. Let's not go into midichlorians. But like you were chosen to be a Jedi, or you just force sensitive. I preferred that over just like, oh well, you were a Jedi. My father was a Jedi before me. His father was a Jedi before him. Yeah, I don't like all that. I'd rather it be a random person, because that for me is intrinsically more interesting as a story and within the story.
Yeah.
Than just like, oh, my dad was a Jedi, so yeah, I just happen to inherit those abilities. Look at that. But yeah. But that's me, and that's my preference on Jedi choosing whatever Jedi powers. But what's your next choice, Scott?
So my next one is Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader.
Ooh.
which was a launch game on the GameCube. It's basically a flight combat game, I suppose, where you most of the time you're playing as Wedge. Basically, you're flying X-wings and shooting TIE fighter, basically. But it's quite an arcadey flight sim game, I suppose. But yeah, lots of fun. First mission starts off as the Death Star trench run from A New Hope. There's a lot of missions that are from the films, but there's a lot of other missions that from outside the films as well. I think there was one where you have to steal a shuttle Tidarian, which is the one they use to get on the forest moon of Endor. The flying feels really solid. It's really fun. And you get to fly all different ships. You get X-wing, Y-wings, B-wings. And I think there's some cheats where you can. I think if you complete the game, you can then use the Millennium Falcon. But I remember a cheat being where you could put a black Ford car in the game, so you're flying a black car in space. That was always pretty fun. I always preferred these games to the X-Wing series, like X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. I did play a lot of that on PC, but I didn't enjoy it as much. That was a bit too sim-y, and just wasn't as fun and arcadey as the Rogue Squadron games. To make you feel that you're in the films, or feel that you're a part of the films with the music, and just flying an X-wing into the Death Star. You can't really top that.
No, I mean, I have to agree with you, Scott. Those games were excellent. I think the one I really played heavily was it Rogue Squadron 3 Rebel Strike or something like that?
Rebel Strike, yeah. So that was the one after this one.
That's when you could run around as a person, so you could run around as Luke with a lightsaber or with a gun.
Yeah.
I guess they were trying to expand it, make it a bit more kind of open for other people to play when they're not if they're not into the kind of starship type battle thing.
Yeah, and I think they done like everything they could from all the films in the first two games, and then they tried something a little different. I still quite enjoyed Rebel Strike, the Scout Trooper mission on Endor, where you're flying the speeder bikes. That was my favorite level. I played that over and over again.
Oh, that was good. Yeah,
sort of running around shooting people didn't really work in that game for me.
No, I agree. I think it was the poorest part, because I think it was something they feel like they just tagged on at the end. It was like, we've got to do something a little bit different. We've mastered this. We've mastered the space battle. We've mastered the vehicles. Just chuck in. Because I remember as well, the camera, you were way, way away from the cameras, well away from the character. So
but all of the vehicles felt really different. Like there's a few missions Y-wing where you actually have to sort of bomb some sort of construction yard or something. When you switch to your bombs, the camera would sort of go up above you, so you could aim the bombs. Yeah, it's just a really, really solid game. And yeah, the flight felt really good. I think I remember there being a few issues with the camera, but yeah, that was really good. And I think there were a few spin-offs. There was a Battle Naboo I remember playing. I'm not sure if that was made by the same studio, but
I really enjoyed those games. Those are some of my favorites, and they're definitely my honorable mentions. That whole series of games, like you said, the music, the sound effects. Wedge Antilles is like one of my favorite characters as well. I think he's a great character, and he kind of pops up here and there. But yeah, it's a great franchise of games, a good little series. So yeah, couldn't agree with you more. Excellent choice.
I think the closest that's come, although I've not played Squadrons, which is the newest one from EA, but Battlefield, one from 2015, the flying in that, although it's good, it still doesn't feel as good as this.
I agree. I agree. I've played Battlefront 2. I've not played. I don't think I've played the original Battlefront. I'm not sure. Maybe briefly, but yeah, it's not. it's not the same. It's just not the same. I don't know what it is, but the je ne sais quoi of the Rogue Squadron series is not. It's not in Battlefront. I think that again they're more focused on the ground assault stuff when you're playing as a person, as opposed to the starship stuff. I think again it feels like it's like we can do this, but it's not our preference and it's not how people will most likely play. And I think the preference for players as well is that you're a ground soldier, you're a ground trooper, attacking or defending wherever you're going. But yeah, I totally agree. I think they captured something special in those games, which I don't think has been replicated the same way, maybe differently, but it's not quite the same. I agree. Right, I'll go on to my next one. This one's a little kind of outside the realm of the Star Wars game. It's a crossover game, in fact, and it is Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga from Xbox 360, PS3, and the Wii. Like we've played Lego games, we've completed Lego games 100%. Lego games are awesome. They're great. Anyone can play them, kids, adults. They're very accessible. They're very simple. They're very basic. There's not much depth to them. There's a lot of collectibles. Characters have, specific abilities to do certain things within certain levels. But that's all you need. And what better than a Star Wars game? Not only one Star Wars game, it's two Star Wars games in one. And it's remastered. Everything's better. It looks better. There are bonus levels that were never included in the original games. It's a huge improvement. You've got new characters, new things you can do, new abilities. You unlock as you go along. It even had a version where you could. I think it was the first time you could create your own Lego character. I think that was the first time this was done in the Lego game. I think this was this game. But yeah, I mean, as you complete the game, you complete it as normal, the story mode, and then what you do is you unlock characters, you unlock vehicles, and then you come back in the free play mode where you can play as literally anybody. You can do literally anything and just have a lot of fun and unlock the later kind of bits and pieces, the studs and the collector packs and all that sort of stuff. It was a fun game, and again, there's not many Star Wars games where you can just go kind of just carte blanche and just be like, I'm going to play this, I'm going to play that. That whole saga is included. It might not be the way you want to play all those games. It might not be as serious because there's obviously a lot of silent slapstick comedy in the cutscenes and stuff, and it's very silly.
I was gonna say because they didn't use any voiceover for the first trilogy, did they? I'm not sure if that's the only one I played, but the original trilogy was without voices, was it?
Yeah, I think it was like Lego Batman 2 when they started using voices. I think that's when they had, and I think there's something that's taken away from it when they start using the voice.
Yeah,
it's still fun, it's still good, the performances are still good, and the scripts are good, but it's not quite the same. I quite like the Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin humor of those original.
Yeah, that's what I loved about it, and it brought something a little bit different to original trilogy, I suppose. And it was really good fun, good just basic gameplay.
Yeah, and if you played, and the good thing is if you played one Lego game, you've played them all, so that's it's easy for people to just jump on and play. Some of the later ones had a bit more kind of open world stuff, like the Marvel games and the Lego Batman. But if you just want to do the levels, you want to play the saga, you want to play the prequels and the sequels, not the originals rather. It's all there for you. Play as all the characters you like, even the most obscure characters. And I love me some obscure characters. If you want to play as Max Beebo, he's there. You can play as Max Beebo. You can even unlock Indiana Jones. You can play as Indiana Jones in the Star Wars.
Oh, I didn't know that
game. Yes, absolutely. You can do that. I don't know how you unlock him. I'm sure people know, but I was made aware that you could, but I'm not. I think it's probably like 100% completion or something. But I think it was kind of a little tease for his upcoming game, Lego game. So there you go. But yeah, it's fun. It's for all the family. It's a blast. You can't really die. There's no real dying in a Lego game, which is good for me because I'm awful at video games. So it's perfection. So yeah, it's one you can all enjoy. It's not going to be too difficult for anyone to play. And I'm not a guy who likes the kind of Command and Conquer style or the Age of Empires style or theme park. I don't like creating stuff or monitoring stuff. I've never been that into those kind of games. I know people enjoy them, like Sims I never got into. I'm like, right, give me an adventure game. I want to pick it up. I want to play it. It can be difficult, don't get me wrong. Like Fallen Order is a difficult fucking game. Jesus Christ, that is a difficult game. But I played a level recently where you're not even supposed to win the fight, and I was still struggling. I couldn't get up to the point where I had to lose the fight.
All right.
It was that fucking difficult, the game. And I looked it up online. I went, there must be a way to do this. And they went, you don't even have to win the fight. And I went, what do you mean you don't have to win the fight? I'm losing it already. I was like, it should be easier than this if I don't have to win. But yeah, fuck me, that's a hard game. Enjoyable game, but a hard game. It's didn't make the list because I've not got all the way yet and finished it.
No, a lot of people like that game. I played it only for the first time a few months ago. I was a bit disappointed in it. You didn't feel. I just struggled with not feeling powerful enough.
That is a problem at the start of the game. Because it's a gradual thing. You have to visit these temples, get your power, remember your training. I quite like the gradual aspect of it, but yeah, there were moments where I was like, "Fuck, I need to like throw my lightsaber or have like a force push." Stuff like that. I'm like, fuck me.
There was one really cool move that I would just do again and again, and that was pull troopers towards you, and then you just stab them when you're holding on to them.
Yeah,
that was a just really easy, fun way of killing people. Yeah, a bit disappointed in that game. It was very sort of janky as well. There was a lot of it wasn't polished enough. There was a lot of sort of falling through walls and issues
I fell
with
a lot. I fell so many times.
I think it was maybe just a bit rushed. I think if they had another 6 months on it, I think that would have been a really good game.
I think the story's good. I like the characters.
Yeah, it's all right. I liked your mate at the beginning who you're sort of working with. But then the other characters in it, I didn't really like.
Yeah, they're not very. To be fair, your crewmates are not very likable. One of them's betrayed a child to the dark side, and the other one's just an arsehole.
Yeah.
Until he's not an arsehole pilot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get. I think for me, it's very much a kind of Devil May Cry type combat system. It's or like a God of War, Dark Souls, very much like that. And I think this is the kind of first game I've ever played with that. So I did struggle. I'm very much like I'm not much of a defensive kind of player when I play games, so I have to kind of teach myself to be defensive. And this is a game where I'm like, fuck me, I'm only defending myself. I'm like this all the time with a lightsaber. But yeah, I
love the little droid though. The little droid was great. I really liked him.
Yeah, BD1. BD1, yeah, I like him. He's great. And you get the customizable stuff, which I quite like. You can customize your look, your lightsaber, and your droid. I think I prefer the exploring aspect of the game than the kind of the combat.
Yeah, same.
I actually quite enjoy the platforming, which is not something I say about a lot of games, especially something like Bounty Hunter. Like I struggle with kind of platforming. I just fall for no reason, or I press jump and it doesn't respond, and I go fucking apeshit. That's one that I'm working my way through, but I'm not sure if I'm 100% sold on it just yet. But I'm gonna see how we go. We're on your number 2, I believe, Scott.
I think this is my last one, isn't it?
Is it? Oh, yeah, it might be your last one. Sorry,
is it? Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, so this easily my favorite Star Wars game, and one of my favorite games of all time, and that's Knights of the Old Republic. Brilliant RPG. I think it came out 2013. No, 2004. I played it on the original Xbox, and it was probably the first 3D sort of RPG I ever played. And I didn't really understand RPGs a great deal at that point, but what a game. So it's set in the Old Republic, so a few thousand years before A New Hope, which I think is what they should have done with when Disney bought Star Wars. They should have just distanced themselves from the first 6 films, I think, and either gone back to this time or gone a few thousand years in the future and really done something different. There's just so much that they expanded on with Star Wars. They brought so much to it, and the story is absolutely brilliant. I'm not sure if you know much about it, particularly about Revan, which I don't know whether to spoil or not on here.
Oh.
It's a fair old game, but maybe not spoiler warning at the beginning at the moment. But so you play as a character who sort of wakes up in the middle of this battle, and there's a really powerful Jedi that you need to try and save called Bastila. So the first few missions are you sort of basically trying to save from the evil Darth Malak, who's, aside from Darth Vader, my favorite Sith character. He looks terrifying. He's got this weird, I think in an earlier battle, the bottom of his jaw gets ripped or cut off. So he's just got this metal sort of plate on his bottom jaw, and he's got this really robotic voice. The voice acting in this game is brilliant, and yeah, he's terrifying. And he's basically a Sith Lord who, along with another Sith who was killed in an earlier battle called Darth Revan, he's found a really powerful sort of space station called, I think it's called the Starforge. And the main sort of plot is that you have to try and stop him gaining control of Starforge and creating almost like an empire, I guess. But the RPG aspect to this game, so much fun. You can go light side or you can go dark side. And whenever I get the choice, I always go dark side on my first playthrough. It's just more fun. You can do so. You can just go around and kill at people. You steal things from anyone you want, and yeah, maybe that says a bit about me. But whenever I get the choice in games, I always go dark side first. It's made by the same people who made Mass Effect. Have you played Mass Effect yet?
No, but I remember you telling me there's a lot of kind of choice. You can choose to be a woman. You can choose to have relationships with certain people. There's a lot of kind of choice-based stuff. So I imagine that comes into play in this game. Am I right? Yeah.
So a lot of Mass Effect is very similar to this game. You can see Mass Effect is basically Knights of the Old Republic, but without the Star Wars license, and they learned a lot. I'm not sure if you like RPGs, but if you do get a chance to play Mass Effect, that story is really good as well. I think they're re-releasing it.
Is the original Old Republic, is that like a turn-based thing? Or do you... It
is. It's very sort of Dungeons and Dragons with dice rolls and numbers. So your equipment that you have on boosts, your attack damage, and armor you put on increases your defense. So it doesn't play exactly like a turn-based strategy sort of game, but it's cleverly done, in which that you first go into a battle, it'll freeze, and then you can choose what to do for, I think it's maybe 3 or 4 moves. So can do anything in those 4 moves, whether it's attack someone with your lightsaber, do a special move with your lightsaber, like throwing it, or you can shoot people, or you can throw a grenade in that turn, and it would, once you then press play, it would then continue. So you do your move first, and then the enemy would do their move. But it doesn't feel like a turn-based RPG.
Okay.
It's still very action orientated, and you can sort of pause it at any point and then change what you want to do if your move hasn't gone yet. It's very slick the way it plays, because I really don't like RPG or turn-based strategy games.
Yeah.
But yeah, the combat in this, although it's not brilliant, I think it may have dated a bit. They get away with it, and it's if you're not into turn-based, I think you can still enjoy the combat in this game. But yeah, it's very much to do with dice rolls.
Yeah, I remember when I used to play kind of Final Fantasy, like Final Fantasy VII and stuff. I was never, again, it's a version of a game which is not necessarily my favorite. But yeah, it sounds like it's got a lot going for it as opposed to that. Not that Final Fantasy VII is shit. It's very good. It's just not my type of game. But yeah, no, it sounds really cool. I know you've talked about it a lot. You like the story, you like the backstory, and Revan. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with that character and that kind of that lore. So yeah, no, it sounds like a very good game.
There's a brilliant droid called HK-47, and he's basically an evil droid. You can recruit him onto your party, but he basically always just wants to kill people. He's always he calls you a meat bag throughout the whole. I think it's a meat bag he calls you. Yeah. And I just tell one story, which is it's my most favorite thing I've ever done in a video game, and probably the most evil thing I've ever done. So there's this sort of side quest that you get on a planet that you go to, and you're just sort of wandering around doing your mission. I think you have to you're looking for a map or something like that, and you come across this woman who's sort of hysterical, and you go up to her and she says, "Oh, please help me. My droid's been stolen. He means everything to me. You need to help me find this droid. My husband died recently, and the droid's all I have in the world." So you go, "All right, yeah, I'll keep an eye out for him." About sort of 20, 30 minutes later, you go into this field, and saw this droid being attacked by these sort of wolf-like creatures. So I went up and killed the wolves. And you go up and speak to the droid and say, "Oh, you okay? Oh, yes, thank you for saving me. But I actually came here to kill myself. That's why the wolves were attacking me." With any sort of standard RPG, you can choose what you say. So, I remember saying to, so you the droid that this woman's looking for. And he says, "Yes. Well, why did you want to kill yourself?" "Oh, well, my owner she's fallen in love with me. And I wanted to kill myself because she needs to get over me. I think she's never gotten over the death of her husband." And the droid sort of implying that she's having sex with this droid. And so the droid then asks you to kill him so that the owner can move on. And so I think there were a few choices that you could do. One of them was to say, "Okay, yes, I will kill you, and I will go and tell her that I've killed you so that she can move on with her life." And I think another option was you could tell him, "No, you need to go back to your master. She misses you, and she needs you." And then the third option was you say to the droid, "Okay, yeah, I'll kill you, but I'm going to go back to Mars and say, couldn't find him. He's still out there." And guess which option I chose? He's this really pathetic droid. So I selected that option. I remember going, "No, I can't let you do that." And then he tries to attack you. It's like this practically C-3PO droid, and he can't hit you at all. So I think I just force pushed him into a wall, and he died. And then went back to the master and said to her, couldn't find him. He's probably still. It's a shame. Go out. Yeah, why don't you go and continue to look for him? I'm sure he needs your help. And and then she runs off looking for him. She's still there to this day, looking for her droid.
I might be able to top that. I was playing The Witcher, and there's this curse on this family, and basically, this demon attaches to a person who's done the worst thing, and the only time you can attack the demon is when they're in the process of moving from person to person. So what I have to do. This woman is part of the family who's trying to lift this curse. She brings me a baby, and there's a choice, and it's give the baby to the people that are chasing you, or throw the baby in the oven. And I went, Yeah, I'm going to throw the baby in the oven. Threw the baby in the oven, but the twist is that actually there's a person on the other side who takes the baby instantly out of the oven, and then the demon shifts over to you, and then you slay the demon. So actually, it was the worst choice and the best choice.
Yeah, that's clever.
Yeah, so that was an interesting level. But I was like, when else in my life am I going to have the option and the ability to throw a baby in the oven? So yeah, I chose throw the baby in the oven. So there you go. Anyway,
I would have done the same.
Excellent choices, Scott. Excellent choices with all of your Star Wars ones. Yeah, I throw babies in ovens. That's what I do. My final one is the most recent Star Wars game. I'm going to go with one you mentioned earlier. It is Star Wars Squadrons from 2020 on Xbox One and PS4, 5 as well, I guess. This follows the exploits of both Titan Squadron and Vanguard Squadron from the Empire and the New Republic. And it revolves around a project called Starhawk, which, if I remember rightly, it's kind of it's an absorbing type technology or something like that. I'm not entirely sure I remember. I played it a few months ago, the story mode now. But much like Rogue Squadron, you are in a team of starfighter pilots. But this is a bit different from Rogue Squadron, and I was kind of disappointed when I learned that there wasn't a third person. This was all in first person, so you are in the cockpit, you are piloting it, you can look around, you can check R2-D2 in the back, not an R2-D2, but an astromech droid. The cockpit is beautiful in the TIE fighters or in the bombers or the Y-wings, the X-wings, the A-wings, you name it. It's gorgeous inside. And you have indicators of what your power source is doing, how many missiles you have, all this sort of stuff, how much energy you have in your blasters, do they need to recharge? Now, you can play this in VR, but I would not recommend it because I didn't play it in VR. And after 2 levels, I was so dizzy I was almost sick because you are constantly just going around in a circle, constantly trying to shoot people, trying to shoot the other fighters and stuff. But I don't think I've played a Star Wars game where it's been so immersive, like the sounds, the music, everything, the voiceovers, I can't shake him, all that sort of stuff. Gold leader, red leader, all that. Like I was in the Death Star, I was in the trenches, I was battling the Star Destroyers. The tension is unbelievable. It was almost like playing a horror game. It was like I was in there, and I'd come out, I'd finish the game, and all my arms and legs would be shaking. I was a pilot in that war. I believed every second of it. I will say that I don't think the story is that great. You play as both in this kind of campaign. You play as the TIE fighters, and you play as the Rogue Squadron or Vanguard Squadron and the Titan Squadron. But the story never comes to like a satisfying conclusion. And I kind of wish there was some choice elements, like, choose to be in this battle, choose to be Titan Squadron, or in this battle, choose to be Vanguard Squadron. I would have liked if some of them had died, some of the squad members had died or something, like there was a bit more kind of risk involved. But I will say this about the game. It is one of the only games I will play online or enjoy playing online in these dogfights or kind of, supremacy matches against the fleet when you're versing the entire fleet and you can take down Star Destroyers and things. It's really, really good, really immersive. You can, switch out your weaponry. You can alter the look of your pilot. You can change the look of your starfighter as well. It's all kind of all editable. It's all customizable. But yeah, it's so good. The controls are very tricky to get around and to kind of work out. But I do recommend just giving it a go and trying, because it is a fun game, and it's a blast to play. You'll never feel more like you're in a starfighter and stuff than this game. So it really is quite excellent. But again, the story's a bit meh. And when you're walking around and chatting to people, that's all you can really do when you're in the hangar. You get your mission, you talk to somebody, you get your mission, you go. Isn't that very interesting, really. But It's something to do. But there you go. That is my number one. Do you have any honourable mentions, Scott, that you haven't already mentioned?
I had Republic Commando and Star Wars Battlefront 2015. I played that a lot and I really enjoyed it. There was also, because I do have a PSVR, and there was a bonus mission, I think, in Battlefront where they used the VR, and you'd fly an X-Wing,
Nice.
and that made me feel really sick. So that's why I've not played Squadrons yet.
Yeah,
because I'm just worried because I really want to play it in VR, but I'm just a bit worried it's gonna make me sick, so.
I mean, it made me feel a bit sick without VR. So I'd say maybe do one level, see how you feel, and then maybe not play it in VR. But I'm quite used to it now. Now I can kind of orient myself with it, and I've got a better idea of the controls. Like one of my favorite parts of the game is that you can switching power to shields. You can actually switch power to shields, or put it to your weaponry, or balance it. I like that idea. It's like, it's almost like stuff they say and stuff they do within the films and stuff. So that again immerses me in the drama of the Star Wars universe. Any other honorable mentions?
There was the old Atari game, which was I think it's from 1981 or 82.
Okay.
I remember playing it I think I was on the Brighton seafront in an arcade, and it was one we had to actually get in the cockpit, and it had a controller, like a steering wheel, and it was very, very basic. It was just sort of the sort of green lines, polygons of the Death Star trench run. But yeah, I remember sitting in there. That was probably in 2004, 2005, and just finding this arcade game. And I think I remember putting in like 50p, and then that gave me about 20 lives or something. And I think I've been sat there for about 30 minutes still playing this game.
Nice.
Yeah, very basic, but yeah, just sitting in a cockpit, shooting fighters. That was good fun.
Nothing wrong with that.
But yeah, there's a lot of other Star Wars games out there, but those are the main ones.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned all of my honorable mentions already, but I will say the original Star Wars Battlefront games were amazing. I think those were arguably one of the high points of the Star Wars video games. Battlefront 2 and Battlefront, they're around mid-2000s, 2004, 2005.
Yeah. I didn't sort of have a PS2, and I'm not sure if they came out on the GameCube. They might have done, but yeah, I never owned those games. I played a couple of them a few times, and did enjoy them. I think I had the first Battlefront on the PC actually, and played that a little bit. But yeah, they were really good games, but I just didn't play enough of them.
Fair enough. We've got some listener comments before we finish, so I'm just going to read these out. So Paul Meller, so that's at Paul Meller Geek on Twitter. Not retro at all, but Jedi Fallen Order and Lego Star Wars are good on the PS4, both of which I need to get around to finishing. I do feel your pain, Paul, because I haven't finished half of these Star Wars games I've recommended. Who else have we got? At my biggest fan, I am Jack's Musings. I am Jack's Musings. Get my words out. Had a great time playing each set of Lego Star Wars movie levels with my eldest super son after watching each episode a couple of years ago. Nothing compares to the PC X-Wing and TIE Fighter space flight simulation games, though. The Force was strong with these ones, indeed.
Yeah. They were great games, but yeah, just a bit too simmy for me. In the 90s, they were the top Star Wars games, I think.
Yeah, I hear a lot of kind of good memories about those ones. Angry Andy Knowles, so Angry Andy Reviews at Andy_reviews on Twitter has said Revenge of the Sith game. The Revenge of the Sith, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith game was immense. I didn't play that one.
I didn't play that one. I played Episode 1. The sort of main Episode 1 game, I suppose. I really enjoyed that one. That was good fun, that.
Yeah. He's got a few others as well. Rogue Squadron, GameCube, another immense game. Worst game after Phantom Menace or Episode 1 Jedi Power Battles, both on the PS1, so that's his least favourites. I somehow killed Jar Jar on Phantom Menace and bugged the game out whereby I couldn't leave the Gungan city. It was like a living nightmare.
I did that.
I think I did that.
I remember that. I don't remember if I killed Jar Jar. Yeah, I remember all the Gungans start attacking you and throwing these massive bombs.
If you accidentally killed
I
someone,
remember doing that as well, yeah.
I think I did it. I definitely think I killed Jar Jar for fun, I think. And then it was like, you can't go any further.
I think I must have done that.
So we've got Sean Mason at Sean Mason on Twitter. I enjoyed the single-player campaign on Battlefront 2, but I'm not a big multiplayer fan. Jedi Fallen Order, though utterly superb, the story is really layered. I love the characters. I am still waiting for them to get made into a Black Series figures. And he also says, I adored Squadrons. Wish the campaign was longer with more missions across the whole war. Who else have we got? Got loads. So many comments. People have lots of opinions. Max Byrne says, at Max Byrne on Twitter, says Super Star Wars on the SNES, rock hard. But that's one of his favorites. On Instagram, we've got Jake Yuri, _Yuri_audiobooks. It's hard to beat the Phantom Menace on PS1, but they keep trying. I played that one. I definitely played that one. We just discussed that. What else have we got? Retro Games from Instagram. Retro Games _in_60_seconds. Shadows of the Empire. Good choice. Mike Chandler on Facebook. Republic Commando and Lego were my standouts. And then my friend Nathan from my Panto days, he has said that check out Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2.
If you don't know what the twist is in Knights of the Old Republic, it's brilliant. And for someone who's always known Darth Vader was Luke's father, like I never got that, because as long as I could remember Star Wars, I knew that. So I'd never watched Empire without knowing what happens. But yeah, the twist in the first game, it's phenomenal. The second one I didn't like quite as much, but yeah, if you don't know what the twist is, definitely play that. I think you can get it on iPhone, actually.
Oh, really?
You can get it on iPhone.
Might do.
Although I don't know how that would play, but might be a bit fiddly.
Can try.
Yeah, Knights of the Old Republic, absolutely. If you've not played it and you don't know what happens, give it a go.
Yeah, I don't know that much. I know that it's popular. I know the backstory is popular, so there must be definitely something interesting to it. Yeah, that was great. Thank you, Scott, for bringing me all your choices, and I hope you enjoyed my choices.
Yes, I did. Thank you very much for having me.
Where can people find you on the social medias if they want to follow you, Scott?
I'm not really on Instagram. I think I am, but I mainly follow it to our cat.
Of course, yeah.
Lots of pictures on them.
Mr. Molly.
Mr. Molly. But yeah, I'm on Twitter, Scott Hodgey, HODGEY. Yeah, that's mainly. I'm starting to use it a bit more. Yeah. I followed I Am Jack's Musings recently. He added me, so I followed him back.
He's a good lad. He's a good lad. My favourite.
He is, yeah.
Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, I've seen he's doing some reviews now as well.
He has a blog. Recommend reading his stuff. He did one on a comic I recommended recently, which is a really good review. He tends to anything I'm covering, he tends to buy or read or what have you. Which is really nice of him. He's an absolute diamond geezer, and he's coming up for my 100th episode. I've already recorded that, so it is coming in May.
That will already have come out by the time you're listening to this.
Okay. No, actually, this one's coming out prior.
So is this coming out before?
Yeah, it's been recorded later, but coming out before. Time travel!
Right. Looking forward to that one, the 100th episode.
I know. Well, 100th and 100th of what? 100th of the first episode. We chatted for far too long. Again, find me on the social medias at Secret Balls on Facebook, at Dan_balls on Twitter, Spider-Dan Secret Balls on Instagram. And don't forget to use the hashtag prepare for prattle. And for everything else you need to know, swing over to SpiderDanandthesecretballs.com. And I want to thank all the people who support me on Patreon, including Scott Hodgson and I Am Jack's Musing. Paul Meller, Max Byrne, and Tony Farina. Your donations help Prattle World keep on turning in a galaxy far, far away. So thank you very, very much for your continued donations. Is there anything else you want to say before we finish, Scott?
No. I was going to say, may the force be with you, but a bit cheesy, isn't it?
I'll say it for you. May the force be with you always. Pure cheese. And we're ending on pure cheese because that's what we do. Right. Take care, everyone, and have a good one. Goodbye.